Futility, angst, hopelessness, and most nebulous of all, loneliness. These raw human emotions are felt by me and all young adults. My generation, the tail end of millennials, and Generation Z are not the first to feel these feelings, but we are one of the first to embrace them, wear them proudly on our sleeves. This comfort and expression has created new genres and forms of art that have provided a voice for our generation. But before I explore the artists that have captured these emotions and gained millions of fans, I want to focus on why I believe we young people are filled with these feelings. I believe futility, angst, hopelessness, and loneliness is born of dissonance. This dissonance is cultivated in two distinct stages. The first is selling us the narrative of a good life. And the second is discrediting our feelings of dissatisfaction. In America and most of the Western world, we are taught meritocracy from a very young age. Hard work, dedication, and grit will one day help you achieve what you dream most. This is indoctrinating us from the moment we enter school till we graduate. For example, when I was in 5th grade, we were rewarded these coins for good behavior and doing our work. And at the end of the year, we got to spend these coins on prizes and recognition. Well, I being, woefully misbehaved, somehow ended the year in debt. But all laughs aside, it was clear to us 5th graders that work plus time equaled reward. Move on to high school, this is even more ingrained. Those who were the highest academically achieving or the best at sports were most certainly always recognized and most certainly always rewarded. Effort paid off. Work plus time equaled reward. But as we move on from our state-mandated education, we quickly become disenchanted to this American dream narrative. In other words, our experiences don't match our expectations. We find ourselves a commodity in a system where a powerful minority or entity benefits, and our work is not truly valued. This is most evident in the fields of medicine, education, and social work. The American dream narrative inspires young people to choose these noble fields. It does so, well, because we require these noble workers to push society forward. But their work is not truly valued. A pertinent and potent example of this is the coronavirus pandemic. Those working at grocery stores, support staff at hospitals, and nursing home staff were regarded as frontline heroes. Yet these individuals received no substantial compensation, let alone protection for their heroic acts. In fact, most organizations canceled hero pay within 3 months of the pandemic beginning, leaving this as just an empty title. Pandemic did more than just this. It shined a light on the flaws and cracks of the American working culture. People sacrifice their wellness for the guise of American meritocracy every single day. The amount of people that have come to me sacrificing their physical wellness, their mental wellness, and the wellness of their family is unquantifiable because it is just that common. And by no means am I saying we are entitled to wealth, prestige, and esteem, and that we are sad and exploited because we are not getting what we want. That is the furthest from what I'm saying. I'm saying that we workers, as humans, at baseline, deserve to have our life valued. And in this end-stage capitalistic system I'm critiquing, our wellness is the first to be sacrificed. So, this stark contrast between what I was taught, what I experienced, spread the same emotions I spoke about earlier: futility, angst, hopelessness, and loneliness. And up until this point, many of you may be saying, you're simply describing the experience of youth. And I absolutely agree with you. My father, an immigrant, had the same realizations and experiences while making his mark in a new world. The power from this generation comes not from the fact that we see the fallacies, but that we can share and empathize with each other based off our lived experience. These emotions have never been talked about as much as now. And young people are flocking to music to help them better understand, articulate, and ultimately heal from the falsities of this American dream. I'll be talking about 3 artists today: XXXTentacion, Juice WRLD, and Lil Peep. Have you guys heard of them? Well, these young men, their work is all deeply cathartic, reflective, naive, raw, and insightful. And it's because they chose such complex topics that young people flock to them. X's songs, such as Revenge and Riot, deal with this young man's experience with violence and the futility that comes from it. My life compared to his is so drastically different, but he did something for me that not many people ever have. He legitimized my emotions. When I was growing up and I tried to share my futility and angst with trusted adults, educators, and even therapists, I was met with a sense of, those are simply the feelings you have when you're young. More or less, get over it. And this was crushing because all this left me with were high-key emotions with no way to understand, let alone express them. But when I listen to X, his music is cathartic. He is validating my emotions. The second artist I will be talking about today is Juice WRLD. From his early works to his most recent album, his relationships with drugs and addiction changes. In the song Wishing Well off his most recent album, he's coming to terms with the realities of addiction. To quote him, "If it wasn't for these pills, I wouldn't be here. But if I keep taking these pills, I won't be here." What a tragically prophetic line. For those of you not aware, Juice died of his seizure brought on by drug use. Juice is presenting that very real emotion of being stuck, that uncomfortable and ubiquitous emotion of youth, hopelessness. And as I grew up and saw the pervasive hatred, inequalities, cruelties committed by people, cruelties committed by countries, cruelties committed by my own country, I, of course, was hopeless. Nothing I do with my life will ever really impact these things. And yeah, I've come to terms with this hopelessness. And I argue everyone in this room has come to terms with their hopelessness. But the youth deserve guidance. So phrases like, "It's been like that from the start," are dismissive. And it's born out of our own despondence. The final artist I will be talking about today, and the most important to me and my friends, is Lil Peep. In a way, Peep stands for everything chaotic and beautiful about youth. Out of all his works, no song is as succinct and genius as Life is Beautiful, because Life is Beautiful deals in paradox. To quote him, "You think you can do it, but the chances are improbable." We tell the youth that they are the future, but then don't listen to anything they have to say. We tell the young to embrace their identities, but then shame them when we don't understand these identities. So where do we go when everything is so paradoxical? Where do we go when we don't even understand, let alone express our emotions? We retreat and we hide them because it's protective. The ending of Life is Beautiful is tragic. To quote Peep, "And if you ever need a friend, then I got you. And in the end, when I die, would you watch me? And if I try suicide, would you stop me? Would you help me get a grip, or would you drop me? Run away, make friends with the moon. Why you tripping? You'll be with your friends soon. There comes a time everybody meets the same fate. I think I'm going to die alone inside my room." The song fades with Peep repeating, "Isn't life beautiful? I think that life is beautiful." All these artists I have talked about today have died. Their deaths should not be romanticized or artistically glorified, but be used as a reflection. They did not have the opportunity to overcome their futility, their angst, their hopelessness, and their loneliness. But we still do. Growing up and being disenchanted does not negate hope, and it most certainly does not negate healing. So, healers, We need to use the lessons from these artists and our own experience to nurture those younger than us. I'd like to share a story with you all. When I was applying to medical school and an interview, a physician asked me about my time at the suicide hotline. This being one of the most important experiences of my life, I shared with him the importance of vulnerability, asking for help, and preventing self-harm. And he said, "That's all well and good, but what's the point?" I was confused. He said, "That's all well and good, but what's the point? If they wanted to kill themselves, they would have just killed themselves. They wouldn't have called you. So yeah, you prevented suicide for 24 hours. But where does that leave you the next day?" Using this logic, I propose we rewrite the Hippocratic Oath to state, "I promise to do no harm, to help every single person I can, except those I consider a lost cause." Healers, search your hearts. Are they a lost cause because we as healers don't know how to help them? Well, let us learn how. We have developed a vaccine for a novel virus in record time. How can we turn our backs on the elemental struggle of despair that the youth presents to us every single day? So I ask you, has someone ever reached out to you, crestfallen? What did you do? Did you embrace them, or did you attempt to control them? Through validation, healers recognize the timeless, enduring, elemental force of youthful despair. Shine the light of experience on that powerful young force and reflect it back. In this scenario, the young can prepare, with our help as healers, not to destroy themselves, but to thrive despite their pain. Futility, angst, hopelessness, and loneliness are natural and reasonable responses. We need to embrace these intense emotions to change form, but not essence. So, I ask of you all, if someone ever comes to you, hear them, see them, validate them. And if we can do this, there's no telling what the young will be able to do. Thank you.